The following is from India's ancient spiritual lore. It is one of many such stories frequently told by Paramhans Yoganand to illustrate basic principles of Dharma, the eternal laws of right action. Long ago, there lived a great sage named Vyas. He was the writer of the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. By his divine power, he invoked a saintly soul to enter the womb of his wife. As the baby grew within the womb, he taught the unborn child the secrets of the scriptures through the subconscious mind of the mother. This baby, when born, was named Shukdev. Because of his prenatal training, he proved to be a unique child. At the age of 7, he already was versed in the difficult Hindu scriptures and was ready to renounce the world and devote himself fully to his spiritual quest. In India, it is customary for a devotee to seek out spiritual teachers until a true master is found, one who is recognized as that devotee's own God-chosen guru. Spiritual novices, through fitful inner urgings, receive instruction from various sources. But when one's spiritual ardor becomes very great, God sends a guru. God uses the divine soul vehicle of the guru as his messenger or instrument to bring the aspirant back to the soul's true spiritual home in omnipresence. The unusual child Shukdev had a tremendous urge to seek the divine. In his fervent search, he was directed by his father to go to King Janak, the ruler of the state of Videha. As Shukdev entered the palace, he saw the king sitting on an elaborate jewel-encrusted golden throne. The king was surrounded by courtiers and by court damsels who were fanning him with palm leaves. This sight shocked Shukdev. He turned back and started to walk briskly out of the palace, muttering to himself, "A matter-soaked king. How could a worldly man be my teacher?" But King Janak was both king and saint. He was in the world, but not of it. Highly advanced spiritually, he telepathically sensed the thoughts of the fleeing Shukdev and sent a messenger after the boy, commanding him to come back. Thus, master and devotee met. The king sent his attendants away and at once entered an absorbing discourse on God. 4 hours passed. Shukdev was getting restless and hungry, but he dared not disturb God-intoxicated King Janak. Another hour passed. Suddenly, 2 breathless messengers arrived, exclaiming, "Your Majesty, the whole city is on fire. The flames threaten to spread to the palace. Won't you come and supervise the efforts to fight it?" The king replied, "I am too busy discussing the all-protecting God with my friend Shukdev. I have no time for anything else. Go and help the others put out the fire." When another hour passed, the same 2 messengers came running to King Janak and cried, "Your Majesty, please flee. The flames have caught the palace and are fast approaching your chamber." The king answered, "Never mind. Don't disturb me. I am drinking the nectar of God with my friend. Go, do the best you can." Shukdev was puzzled by the king's attitude, but he too tried to remain unaffected by the excitement. A short time later, 2 scorched messengers leaped in front of the king, shouting, "Mighty king, behold the flames approaching your throne. Run before both of you are burnt." The king replied, "Save yourselves. I do not fear the audacity of destructive flames." His messengers fled. The flames leaped toward the pile of books that Shukdev had by his side, but the king sat motionless, indifferent. The alarmed Shukdev lost his poise He half rose from his seat and began slapping at the flames in order to save his precious books. King Janak then smilingly waved his hand. The fire miraculously disappeared. Shukdev, in great awe, sank back to his seat. The king said calmly, "O young Shukdev, you thought of me as a pleasure and matter-drenched king, but look at yourself. You forsook the all-protecting thought of God to save a pile of books, while I paid no attention to my burning kingdom and palace. God worked this miracle to show you that although you are a renunciant, you are more attached to your books than to God, or than I am to my kingdom, even though I live in the world instead of a hermitage. Attachment to possessions and not possession itself is the source of misery. In this world, we do not own anything. We are only given the use of things. Some have more to use than others. But remember, the millionaire and the poor man alike have to leave everything, all possessions, when death comes. Humbled, the young Shukadev then recognized the saint king to be his guru. King Janak put Shukadev through a process of discipline to teach him the art of living in the world without acquiring misery-making attachment to it. One day, the king gave his new disciple 2 cup-shaped lamps filled to the brim with oil. Janak said, "Hold a lamp on the palm of each hand and walk through all the rooms of the palace. Come back to me after you have seen everything. But remember, I will refuse to train you further if you spill a single drop from the lamps." King Janak instructed messengers to accompany Shukdev and to refill the 2 lamps with oil as quickly as they burnt down. It was a hard test, but after some hours, Shukdev returned triumphantly without having spilled any oil. The king said, "Young Shukdev, tell me in detail what you saw in each chamber." To this, Shukdev replied, "Royal preceptor, my only accomplishment was that I did not spill any oil on your carpets. My mind was so concentrated on the thought of not dripping oil that I did not notice anything in the rooms." King Janak then declared, "I am disappointed. You have not completely passed my test. My injunctions were that you should see everything in all the chambers of the palace and that you should not drip any oil from the lamps. Go back with the lamps and remember, do not spill the oil while you look carefully at everything in the palace." After several more hours, Shukdev calmly returned. He had not allowed any oil to drip, nor was he perspiring with excitement as before. He could answer all the king's questions about the contents, however minute, of all the palace chambers. King Janak was pleased. "My son," he said gently, "one should not live a one-sided life, thinking only of God and neglecting one's duties in the world, such as your concentrating on the oil lamps and not seeing the palace. On the second trip, you kept your attention principally on the lamps, seeing to it that you did not spill any oil, but at the same time, you thoroughly saw everything. So, should you keep your attention on God, not letting a drop slip away from the lamp of God revealing wisdom, and yet devote part of your attention to performing efficiently the God-given duties of maintaining yourself and others given into your charge." The 2 morals of the story illustrate the basis of the world's troubles: one-sidedness and attachment. We were intended to live in the world, but not to be bound by it, to fulfill our material duties in life, but to center our consciousness in God. Contrary to Shukadev's preoccupation with the oil lamps and his consequent neglect of outward duties, Most people today have spilled all the precious oil of inner God perception while racing after external experiences. And unlike the wise king Janak, who was detached from the vast material treasures of his kingdom, modern men and women dote on their transitory possessions as the sole sources of happiness. The mass effect of attachment to material things and indifference to spiritual development has led the world to selfishness, poverty amidst plenty, and finally to widespread economic depression. In the individual, forgetting God and clinging to possessions brings sorrow and dissatisfaction. Hence, those who want the unlimited divine power to work for them in business and family affairs and to bestow on them lasting peace and happiness should be as earnest in seeking God as they are in pursuing the materialities He has created, as devoted to meditation as they are to earning money. All who endeavor to find God first and to hold that divine oil ever steady in their consciousness will gain both enduring inner happiness and the outer success of acquiring their material needs. We must not feel we are too busy to try to contact God. Should God stop our hearts, we would be unable to keep any of our business or social engagements. Since all our success depends upon powers borrowed from God, truly that person is successful in life who devotes time to God communion as well as to material duties. And one who enjoys the good and beautiful things of this world yet refuses to be possessed by them is one who finds lasting happiness. So remember that to be mentally and physically idle, neglecting to perform the duties required of you, is to be forsaken by God and man. And to carry out your duties but forget God is to be like the mule carrying a bag of gold. It gets a little satisfaction by receiving food as a reward for carrying its load, but it does not use or appreciate the priceless treasure on its back. Similarly, one can receive a little satisfaction through performing one's duties, but miss the greatest happiness in life, which comes from being conscious of the God bliss you are carrying within your soul. To perform all proper outer duties with concentration, while being inwardly aware of the goal of God's presence, is the ideal mode of living, the way of everlasting happiness.